Hello and welcome back to our weekly IG Live series. We took a little bit of a break and hope you have had a good end to your summer vacation like we did. And we're excited to be back today. I'm going to be talking to someone who is actually one of my favorite people that I have gotten to interview, and that is Patrice McLaurin. Hello. And when she gets on here, you'll see why. She's just such a fun person to talk. A new one that is launching in just a few days, and that is Dandy McLaurin Has Her Say. So we'll hear all about that. Hello.
Hey,
It's so good to see you.
good to see you. Oh, I heard the compliment.
Yeah,
The
and it's
end of
true.
freedom
It's
and make
true.
me feel good.
Well, I had somebody ask me, because I've gotten to do a lot of interviews here and also on Multicultural Children's Book Day, and I had someone ask me, who's your favorite person that you've interviewed? Which is hard to say because there have been a lot of really great interviews, but the person that popped in my head was you, because it was just like, I just felt like I was floating after we talked. Because one of the things, I want to make sure we talk about your book, and especially your new book that's coming out. But just to start off, maybe you can introduce yourself and then talk about how, what really impressed me about our interview is you just have this really infectious positivity, but it's not positivity that comes, like they talk about toxic positivity, where people ignore all the bad things that are happening in the world. You understand all of that, and yet you still have a way of inspiring people to be the best person they can be. So why don't you, before we get into that, maybe introduce yourself to people that don't know you, and then tell us, where does that attitude and that kind of inspiration come from?
Oh, thank you. So I am Patrice McLaurin, children's book author. I am a mama, and I am an image activist, and I am an educator at heart. So I suppose that maybe that type of energy comes from maybe the image activism, in that, like a lot of African Americans, I kind of grew up with this slight inferiority complex, right? And that's in part because of the unbalanced narratives that we receive when we learn about the history of this country. And one of the things that we learn as Black people is that our beginnings begin with slavery, right?
Right.
So I took it upon myself to do my own little research, to do my own history, to study history and do my own learning. And in learning about myself and learning more about the excellence of Black people,
Right.
it kind of helped me to, navigate my way out of that inferiority complex. So to me, that's just my approach to life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not going to ignore the things that are happening around me, but I am not going to fall victim to a victimization mindset
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like I can't do anything about it. And that's because I am firmly rooted in the knowledge of my people and my past and my ancestry. And I'm firmly rooted in our excellence. And I know that we have the capacity to do things in spite of. I know that I stand on the shoulders of those people who were able to come out of, horrific and traumatic situations in spite of. So because I know the possibility of that,
Mm-hmm.
I just try to empower others with that possibility.
Right. And if you haven't checked out Patrice's Instagram, you should. There's one recently where it's a clip of you speaking exactly about this. I can't remember what the conference was, when you were on a panel and just talking about how kids in a classroom, they learn about Thomas Edison, but they don't learn about the African American inventor who made Thomas Edison's invention possible. And so can you tell us about your series? Because you have this wonderful series about Have You Thanked an Inventor? And all of these everyday inventions that most of us don't know who invented them, and so many of them were invented by African Americans. And like you said, you know, that really helps inspire and help kids to have a better idea of their own potential. So can you tell us about that?
I can. Oh, so fortunately, I have the little books here. So I do have a series titled the Thank an Inventor series. So my first book in that series is this one. It's titled Have You Thanked an Inventor Today? This is my baby, y'all. This is my book baby. This is the book that helped to propel me on this author journey, right? So in this book, we follow this little kid around and we just highlight different inventions that he uses throughout his day. And all of the inventions highlighted in the book were invented by Black people, and they're practical inventions. So to me, this is really a practical way to introduce children to the brilliance and excellence of Black inventors, because it helps them to see how they're utilizing the genius of a Black person's mind throughout their day and they don't even know it, right?
Right.
So I followed up this book with another group of our least talked about inventors, which are children. This one is titled Have You Thanked the Kid Venture Today? And in this book, I just give like little brief biographies about some of our favorite inventions that were invented by children, like the popsicle and the trampoline, the TV, so on and so forth. So this book, I will acknowledge, isn't as culturally relevant as for Black people or people of color at any rate, as Thank an Inventor. But what it does do is it allows for children to have a self-to-text connection where they're able to see themselves as inventors. And it's my hope that in seeing themselves as inventors, that it kind of sparks that innovative genius and encourages them to do the same. And then I tied that series up with my Thank an Inventor coloring and activity book. And so this book has like over 100 different activities, and they're all centered around the Thank an Inventor series. So that is that series. And then I also have this one titled I Am Because I Choose. This is my little social emotional learning baby. And in this book, I try to encourage children that, first of all, you get to choose your behavior. No one chooses that for you. And secondly, you are indeed a byproduct of the choices that you make. So if you choose to be a good reader, then you will be an excellent student. If you choose to eat good foods, then you will be healthy, so on and so forth. So that's that. So those are my little book babies. And then, of course, I have the new one that I'm thinking we'll talk about later.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to make sure we talk about that. But just to, before we move on from this series, can you give us some examples, going back to your first book, Have You Thanked an Inventor Today? What are some examples of everyday things that we use that most people wouldn't realize were invented by African Americans? And was there one that kind of sparked the book for you, that when you found that out, you thought, oh, people need to know about this, that this was invented by African American?
Well, there were so many, and I couldn't put them all in this book. So, like, the inventions that just kind of, it was so many. Actually, the inspiration behind this book was actually Dr. Martin Luther King, right? I remember seeing a clip of him saying this, and I don't know where it was, and I have yet to be able to find it again. I've Googled it, I've searched it, I can't find it. But I remember Dr. King saying that we utilize the genius of a Black man's mind during the first 15, 20 minutes of our day, and we don't even realize it, right? So you get up in the morning, you hit your light switch, or you look at your clock, or you go to your refrigerator, or you click the ignition in your car. Just all of these different things, they come from the genius of a Black man's mind, and we don't even realize that. So really, it was just a combination of a lot of different inventions that were invented by Black people, because what I learned, essentially, there's this book titled Black People Invented Everything. And of course, we know that Black people did not invent everything, but my Lord, Black people invented a lot of stuff. And it makes sense when you consider the fact that we were enslaved. So we were the ones who were doing the majority of the work. So, you know, I'm sure that we operated under the adage that you work smart and not hard. So we want to find different ways to do our tasks, right? So we invented all of this different stuff. One of the things that kind of stood out.
Probably most.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and there are probably so many more inventions that we don't even know, we can't even give credit for it because they were never given credit, that we don't, you know, they're being enslaved, that they weren't given any credit, and probably took credit for it. So, yeah.
Patents were stolen and all of that good stuff. So, yeah, there isn't one that just inspired me, though I will say that when I learned that Black people invented the potato chip, like I talk about that in this book. But then, you know, just in during further research, I learned that Black people invented the keychain.
Really?
Just something that you would never consider, right? A Black woman named Madeline Turner invented the juicer,
Wow.
right? Just these things that we use every day. The pencil sharpener, invented by a Black person. And a lot of the inventions were also improvements. And I tell students when I go to visit them with authors visits that you can take something that's already been invented and you can make it better. You can improve upon it, or you can make it worse. But if you change it, then it's a brand new invention, right? So even though some of these inventions were improvements, they're still considered inventions because they took a product and they recreated it in a way where they had to get a brand new patent. Right. So you have to consider that also. So like the modern day refrigerator, you know, all of that good stuff, the modern day hairbrush, the ironing board, the lock was approved by African Americans. So we have done a lot to contribute to just the fabric of the nation. And I think that should be, you know, just acknowledged.
Yes. And what kind of response do you get from the kids when you go to visit schools?
Oh, they love it. But we just have it's just a whole vibe when I go to the schools. Like office visits are by far my favorite part of the gig. I absolutely love it. I'm like a kid energy vampire because their energy is just so pure and it's so innocent. And I just kind of honestly feed on it, right? Because I love it. Because when they love you, they love you. And they really love you and they don't really care about your color. They don't care about your gender. They just care about how you make them feel. Right. So it's just really a whole vibe. I'll admit that I get the best response from children though when I go to the schools when we talk about the kid inventors. Because of course, those are the inventors that they really relate to, right? The Black inventors kind of seep into your subconscious, okay? But these kid inventors, you're looking at them live and direct, and you're saying, wow, if this kid can do it, I can do it too. So I get a greater response from the children with the Kid Ventor book.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your new book that's coming out? It's how many days is it? 4 more days?
Yes, well, 5 more days. The countdown to just the first. So, 5 more days because it comes out on the 6th.
Oh, right.
So the book is titled Dandy McLaurin Has Her Say. Right. And I'm really excited about this book. I'm really, really, really so excited about this book because it's so different from anything that I've done. Just a little side note, I'm a cerebral reader, right? So I do a lot of cerebral reading, and I feel like most of my children's books have been like cerebral books because they're, you know, you have this character, but this guy, he doesn't have a name. This is basically a book of information. This is a book of information. This, you know, Kid Ventor is a book of information, but in this particular book, I actually created a character. The character has a name. Her name is Dandy McLaurin. We have a plot. We have a theme. We have all of the good attributes that make an awesome story. We got dialogue. I'm excited about it. So essentially, Dandy McLaurin and Kirkus, they reviewed the book. Kirkus called Dandy a young dandelion activist, right?
I love it.
Now, I didn't consider her as an activist, but when I saw that, I said, okay, I'm here for it, all right? So Dandy McLaurin is this young dandelion activist, right? And Dandy learns that people have given dandelions a bad reputation. People label dandelions as weeds instead of flowers. Dandy does not like this because Dandy knows that quite often weeds are chopped down before they have an opportunity to grow and blossom. So because Dandy is solutions based, right? She decides to do something about the problem. She don't want to just talk about it. Dandy be about it, okay? So Dandy gets up, she goes to the people's town hall meeting, right? And she decides to share the truth
Mm.
about the history of dandelions, right? She tells all of these awesome facts about the history of dandelions in hopes that once people learn the truth about dandelions, that they will change their perception maybe and begin to treat dandelions with dignity and respect. So what we find out in this book is whether or not Dandy McLaurin using her voice makes a difference, right? So what I love about this book is that it's layered and
Right.
it can actually grow with the child, right? Of course, it's, a fact sharing book about dandelions. You're going to learn some awesome facts about dandelions. So that makes it STEM based, right? But it's layered. It's STEM based, it's social emotional learning based, it's even character education based because we're going to talk about introduce you to a way that you can handle big emotions. We touch on empathy, we touch on compassion, and then with character education, we talking about civic responsibility.
Yes.
If I go to my town hall meeting to express my opinion about an injustice that I feel like is being perpetrated against me and my community, then that's me exercising civic responsibility. So we even introduced the character education concepts into this book. So it's very layered. I really love it. We can use it for STEM. We can use it to introduce tough topics to children, topics like discrimination, topics like prejudice. And it's a fun and palatable way to do that. And it's a way that all children will be able to relate to it because we're seeing this from the point of view of a dandelion.
Right.
So that's it what Dandy McLaurin has her say. And just side note, she has this really awesome relationship with her mama, which I love. I dedicated the book to my mama. She transitioned in 2020, so I dedicated the book to her. So yes, that is Dandy McLaurin has her say. So you can actually pre-order now at dandy.patricemclaurin.com. And if you pre-order, I actually have companion lessons to go along with the book to just heighten learning.
I just want to mention, because I know you're not able to see all the comments probably that are going through, but you got comments about what a great title, that they love all the layers in the story and so many great qualities that you're teaching the kids. There's just so much packed into this one story, but it's in a way that it, is so engaging because it is in a story. And I just wonder, so where did the idea for this come from? I mean, especially dandelions, that's such a great way to kind of get into this topic of discrimination and.
Yeah. Okay, so it's really crazy, right? Okay, it actually came to me during COVID.
Okay.
It came to me during COVID. It was the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what was going on. All I knew that I needed to boost my immune system, right? So I'm big into herbs and I know I just know some of the medicinal and herbal attributes of dandelions. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go into my backyard. I'm going to dig up my dandelion roots and I'm going to make me some dandelion tincture so that I can boost my immune system. Dandelions are antiviral. I'm going to do this, right? So then as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about it. And I've thought this before, but, I'm doing it. And I thought to myself, you know what? We're going through this pandemic and people actually have medicine in their backyards. And most people probably aren't even aware of that because we don't know the medicinal purposes of dandelions because dandelions have been mislabeled. They've been falsely labeled as a weed. And we'll go out there and spray them with Roundup and kill them when we can actually what's the word, forage? I don't know. I'm going to say dig it up because I don't know the word for it, but we can actually go out there and dig up this medicine. And so I thought, wow, more children need to know more about dandelions. And I'm thinking, okay, this is in my STEM thing. So maybe I'll read a book about the benefits of dandelions, right? But then I thought further on it. And I was like, and again, this was 2020, so this was the height of George Floyd and all of this stuff that was happening, right? And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, you know what? Black people are the dandelion. We are the dandelion because we are mistreated. We are discriminated against. we are targeted, we are chopped down before we have an opportunity to blossom simply because of false labels
Right.
and propaganda and negative stereotypical images that have been placed upon us. And people don't know the rich history of Black people, just like people don't know the rich history of the dandelion. If they did, they would look at the dandelion differently. And if people knew the history of Black people, they would look at Black people differently. So then I'm just thinking, whoa, that's a whole nother layer I can add to this. And so then as I'm writing the story, just other concepts, the social emotional learning concepts began to come into play. And, you know, the character education concept came into play because I had a whole nother plot, you know, in the plot. It was like these little kids who were out there talking to the dandelion, and they were actually comparing the experience of the dandelion with the experience of Black people. But I just thought that was too heavy, you know, and then I sent it to an editor, and the editor confirmed it. She was like, no, you got to take that out. That's too heavy. So I decided, okay, this is something that I still want to express in the book. How can I express it in a way that's kid friendly?
Right.
So I'm just loving this book because it's just this kid-friendly mix of science and advocacy, and it's just like,
Yeah,
I'm excited.
it's such a powerful metaphor, and then it ties right back into your other books, really. I mean, it seems like such a different book, but it really relates because what you're talking about is this untapped or unappreciated potential that could benefit everyone when we're, you know, when we're mowing down the dandelions, or when discrimination against African Americans, when that's genius that could benefit everyone, just like you
Yes.
had in your invention books. I love that. And what a cool way to get that concept across to kids.
I think so. And I really hope that people gravitate towards it. And I really hope that people get the intention behind it. Because the intention is just to empower. That's the intention behind all of my books, to empower. You know, I'm trying my best to do what I can to help develop children who are strategic thinkers, who are emotionally intelligent human beings, who operate with empathy, who operate with compassion, who operate with respect. I feel like if I can do that,
Right.
then I'm actually just kind of doing my part to make the world a better place. And then furthermore, your girl getting old, okay? I am on the other side of the spectrum. I'm almost 50, all right? So what I have to remember is that as I get older, these children are going to be the ones who have to take care of me, right? So then if I want them to do that effectively, I need to pour as much empathy, as much compassion, as much excellence into them as I can, so that I can get it on the back end. There's a little selfishness in there. Okay, I'll admit it.
I love that because I think I'm about the same age. So yeah,
You know, we gotta do what we can. We gotta do what we can.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and for everybody watching, please go. You can get the link from her Instagram, or I think it was Dandy DANDI.patricemclaurin.com. You can pre-order the book. It launches in just a few days. You don't want to miss it. It's really wonderful. And also be sure to check out her other books. They are really wonderful. I've enjoyed getting to read them with my kids, and I'm looking forward to reading the new one as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks to everybody for watching. Yes, and if you joined late, this is going to be up on Instagram in just a few minutes, and I'll have it up on YouTube later today. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you. So good to see you again. Bye.
Bye.